Okay. Well, I'm going to hold off on Joanne's for a while, and Jenny, do you want to talk about your concerns, and we'll just pick it up there? I've got it all printed out right here.
Well, I don't know what I've done with it. Sorry, I'm a bit discombobulated. Oh, I didn't print it out for myself. That was silly. I was thinking I would be on my laptop, and I'm on my new phone. So I haven't got it in front of me. It was just that point. That paragraph, is it number 3?
All right, I'll read it to everybody.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know if you've read it. She sent it around, but
Yeah.
and what I had written was, remember that the cauth and solar plexus are like the ends of a seesaw. When one is up, the other is down, and vice versa. And you need to consider which direction you want the flows to go. And this has to do with the flows if you're working between the centers. Now, I had previously found out in the beginning, we didn't do any work between the centers at all. And then I got to thinking about it. I thought, well, that's interesting. The way these flows go, they kind of, if you think of the flows at the center coming from the spine forward, they're kind of like a fountain flowing out and then spreading around and falling back. The fields have to go back to where they start from. They can't just start and disappear and start and disappear. Like I wish some of our politicians would do. But anyway, so I had a friend of mine, this is early days, and she was over and we were doing Shen. I said, okay, what I want you to do, I had some pain in my heart that I couldn't access. And I said, after you've done the frontward flows at the heart and the cauth, and I guess I said at the throat, after you've done that, I'd like you to do rearward flows between my heart and my solar and between my solar plexus. Yeah, I guess it was between my solar plexus and my heart to do a rearward flow. And I knew when she started doing it, I was sort of alert. And then as she started doing it, I just the present surroundings sort of disappeared. And I had an image, and the image was of this chunk of steel that was rising from my spine and elevating out of me. Well, symbolically, that is a pretty profound thing. And it indicates something got cut loose. And when she finished the session, this pain that I had was gone, which I'd had for a long, long time around my heart. So it broke it up. And that was when we started doing the rearward flows. And so that you have to always remember that when we're working, there are 2 flows involved all of the time. One is the normal movement of the field that the person has in their body that's either moving freely or maybe blocked in different places. And the other is our flows between our hands. Now, the difference, well, there's a lot of differences between the two, but one is that I know of no way that the flows between our hands can create an emotion. They don't.
Yeah.
Now I'm not able to tell you how it is that emotions occur in the body like that, but it is a body process that produces the emotion. And the emotion is the circuitry is either carrying it out in a relaxed fashion or maybe blocked and not working. So when we try to work with our flows from our hands, it's not, we don't do anything different at one center from another. It's just that we add our flows, we add the power of our flows to whatever's going on inside the body. And if we're really intelligent and sharp about it, and follow the kind of ideas that we put forth, it works pretty well. And so now on a practical, so my teachings have always been a way to meld these two flows in a practical way to get something done. And I had in the early days a number of people who, as soon as I would start working anywhere except at the Koth, they'd get terrified and filled with fear, and they'd quit. They wouldn't want to work with them anymore. And so I developed a way. I thought, well, okay, I've got to stay far, far away from that solar plexus. And what I did initially was to work between the Koth and the root. And as long as I did root flows to the front and to the Koth and rearwards between the Koth and the root, things started to work. And there was much more confidence. And then I needed to somehow edge into the fear. I knew that if I just started working behind the solar plexus and amplifying the fear, that they were going to get frightened, and that would be the end of the session. And so I had to, after I had felt that I'd strengthened the Koth, then I started doing these flows that which I call gathering, which are from behind the rearward lines to the front, either out through the solar plexus or out through the Koth. And these are flows that you could think of as just adding power to the process, and in the process of doing that, breaking some obstructions. And so what I said in this paragraph, you need to consider the direction you want the flows to go. Koth to solar plexus, or solar plexus to Koth. And if you do combinations flows from behind the Koth to the solar plexus, you'll be boosting the solar plexus and adding to the emotions of fear and anxiety. In the case mentioned, what you really want to do is go from behind the solar plexus to the Koth to pull power away from behind the solar plexus and bring it out through the Koth. And that was where Jenny said she thought it ought to be the other way around. And I developed that and have used it successfully a number of times in the early days and since then. And so I stand on my statement that that's the way that works.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if I've helped you in any way on that, Jenny, or what, but.
No, not really. I still don't quite understand. It seems to me like, my maybe misunderstanding is that going from solar plexus to Koth is that you're extending. It feels to me like, it's a frontward flow. You're extending. But
I'm not working at the front with my hand. I'm working from behind the back.
Yeah. From the back of the solar plexus to the front of the Koth, right?
Yeah.
That's what you mean.
I'm bridging a number of things that are going on there. I'm just making a short circuit through those two centers.
Yeah. So to me, it seems like that would expand the solar plexus, rather
It
than,
isn't doing anything to the front of the solar plexus at all.
right. No, that's true. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we're done with that one.
I can understand that.
Just being really thick, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's a little tricky to try to understand those things, but the basic, but what I can, there isn't anything that I've ever given you to do that I haven't put into practice and worked on many times.
Yeah.
There have been there have been a number of times occur where I had some odd situation take place in the person's body or field, and thought, oh boy, I got a new something here. And then so I tried it with somebody else and couldn't make it happen again. You don't ever hear about those things because I don't teach those things. I don't teach things that don't work. What I teach you are things that I have tried over and over again, as many times as was available to me, and had consistent results. And I've tried to outline it in a way that it wasn't just saying, okay, here's what you do by the numbers. Don't worry about understanding it. Just do it by the numbers. That isn't a very good way to do it. So it's kind of a combination of the two. But you can be sure I don't just put these things out there until I've tried them a lot. Okay. Just
So-
a
Yeah.
minute. All right, hang on
Sorry,
a second. I gotta.
Richard, can I ask a question about that, please? Just because I might be being a bit, I'm not quite understanding. I don't think you.
Laura?
Yeah, Richard, can I ask a question about that? I'm not quite understanding. When you say about working at the back of the solar plexus, that do you mean you put your ascending hand at the back of the solar plexus and your
Yes,
extending
yeah.
hand on the calf? Okay,
Yeah.
okay, just checking. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
All right, Adriana, do you want to talk about your concerns?
Yes, I'm not. I asked the question and I sort of went into 3 paragraphs or something to explain my question. But I think basically I was trying to ask Richard if one person can, not if one person, if we can accept and consider that SHEN, SHEN has sorted everything. SHEN has gone to the bottom of it. There is nothing else to be unpeeled, unearthed. Can both the practitioner or the client ever reach a point where they say, nothing else to do here, or I don't need anything else because I feel that I've totally overcome everything. I don't have any. I've never encountered this. I'm just trying to ask, maybe in a very strange hypothetical way, if SHEN. I'm starting my journey, but even if it's not continuous sessions, but someone comes on the first year and then after another year they come back and then they come back again. Are we able, if we live for 100 years or so?
Adriana. And for the rest of you, if you're going to bring a question to the table, you need to have it printed out so that you can talk about it.
What? Sorry.
You need to have it printed out in front of you instead of going on.
I can read it. I can read it. No problem. Sorry. I can. Sorry.
Well, that's what I was asking you to do.
So sorry. I thought, no, I can do that. I said, I wrote to Richard. Okay. Sorry. I said to Richard, good. Okay. For those who have had SHEN and acknowledged and noticed its positive effects in one's life, can they really say, I don't need SHEN anymore? I've sorted everything.
Okay, now just stop and let them think about that.
Okay, that was
Okay, does anybody want to comment on that? What's the answer to that? Yes or
I would
no?
want to,
I think it's an ongoing process. Life still happens, and so I think one can never completely just be cured or free of. You might react to things differently after SHEN, but I think life still happens and problems still get encountered and people still hurt each other and whatnot, and trauma still happen. So I think, yes, I don't think you can just be cleared of something. So I mean, it's an ongoing thing.
Anybody else want to comment on that?
I would say that if somebody is saying, I don't need SHEN anymore, then I would probably want to know, give me a good reason for that.
Hmm.
I would feel that there's always something, that maybe people aren't aware of it, but that there's always something.
Well, it's certainly clear that people can get to a point where they feel much better about themselves, perhaps better than they have ever felt before. And and I've had people say, yeah, I'm done. I had a fellow come, he was a regular client for a whole year. He came every Saturday for a session, and his life changed dramatically during that. His behavior, his family, his relationship with his kids. His wife was ecstatic. His kids actually came for SHEN, the little kids came for SHEN themselves. And they were explaining to me how things worked. And one of the little boys was actually doing SHEN on his parents, and they'd feel the results. And so he came to a point, his criteria was that every time he came, he had some insight on his life on his early life with his father, which was a terribly tangled and bad relationship. And so this time came when he didn't have anything more about his father. He says, okay, I'm all cleared out. That's it. And he's never been back. And I was so startled by that I didn't say what I should have. Well, I think you ought to schedule to come back every 6 months anyway, just to clear out what's going on in the present. But I didn't, and he's never come back. And that's it. There is no way that life is an ongoing process, and it brings all kinds of problems and trauma. And at the very least, things will happen that will impact on this person. Loved ones will die. They'll be mugged in a back alley somewhere or something, or they'll fall off a ladder when and hurt themselves and be frightened and have all sorts. Things keep happening. And so that there never is a time when you can say, well, I'm not going to need any more SHEN in the future. But as far as I'm concerned, it's very hard for me to believe that anybody is totally cleared out. I've had a pretty strong belief that if you actually were completely resolved of all of the trauma that you carried from this life and whatever previous lives you might have had, that you would fly away with wings and be gone. I'm done with it.
But
And that hasn't happened with anybody I've ever worked with, but I'm waiting for it to happen to me, but it doesn't seem to want to do it. So
I think it helps, though. Are you done? Can I speak now?
yeah, you can speak.
I think, you know, when clients go through the SHEN process, especially if they've had a long and a lot of SHEN, they go through the process and they feel that much better. I think they're better equipped to actually
They're better equipped to live life.
deal with, well, they are, and they've got a tool then. I always teach them the SHEN flows that they can do for themselves. And I think they become more, yeah, they understand, they know a bit more about how to handle their feelings when they come up.
Yeah, well, no, that's true, but that doesn't negate what I said, did it?
No,
Okay.
but it's just adds to it.
Okay, well,
But can I, Richard, may I add something, please?
yeah,
I understood what you said, and I'm happy with what you said, because it comes towards what I was sort of feeling. However, the person who has received, I mean, your example, the person sorted or cleared all the issues with the father and decided not to turn up again, and that was it, you know, that was a
Okay.
choice, yeah, personal
that
choice.
happens a lot to all of us.
Okay. So basically, okay, so I think I know the answer then. So there may be other issues that even the practitioner may have picked up, but as long as the client doesn't seem bothered or doesn't acknowledge them, it's okay or not.
Okay. I didn't quite follow where you were going with that.
What I asked was, the client can choose not to come back because they've cleared whatever was.
Okay, of course they can.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that the practitioner may have picked up other emotions that are still unresolved, which the client may not be aware of that, or it may not
Well,
appear.
what are you going to do about that?
Well, nothing. I'm just saying that the process for the, as long as I'm trying to say it's subjective. That's the detail I wanted to say. It's
All right, then can you figure out what you might do about that? Obviously, you could just say, oh, okay, fine, goodbye. Is there anything else you can do?
I think that's an opportunity to ask your client, you know, well, how you feel, you know, do you feel SHEN has really, and in what way do you feel SHEN has really helped you?
And if what I was going to say was, it's a very good time to say, if you've found something that you think is still there, say, well, what about this issue?
You see,
Yes.
thank you, but isn't that too direct? Isn't that sort of putting ideas into people's heads and opening a can of something?
Well, it got put into your head. Who put it there?
But I think
there is nothing, if they're saying, that's it, I'm not going to do anymore. I would probably not want to say, well, what about this issue that I don't think ever got cleared up?
no.
Because they're in a mind to move on. And you say, but you can say, look, I know you're not telling me that there's not going to be any trauma come into your life in the future. Are you? And they'll say, no. Say, well, when it does, remember what SHEN can do for you.
Yeah, but Richard, if it's the other way around, if it's a client who wants to keep coming, and you know, it's nice.
Well, that's another issue. That wasn't her question.
Well, exactly. And you know, I think that is the issue, really. You know, that somebody who wants to come is a nice cozy thing to be coming, and you know, you have a nice rest for an hour or whatever, and you know, they're saying, well, there's nothing in particular happening. So I think maybe, you know, then
well, having had many SHEN sessions with no stated purpose except that I was exhausted from what I was doing and I needed to get underneath and get to a deep place where I could relax.
Deep.
I always thought that was a blessing. Are you saying I shouldn't have done that?
Well,
You as a practitioner, Richard, you,
me as a practitioner. So what's the question you're asking? Sorry.
I'm asking Richard, that example you said it was a blessing for you because you were tired of, and it was okay for you as a practitioner to have a client that was just
It's okay if it's okay for me to get Shen to help me relax. It's certainly okay for a client to get Shen for the same.
Okay. Okay.
When I'm on the table, I'm not a Shen practitioner. I'm a receiver.
Okay. Okay.
And I thought that when the person relaxes, it gives them the chance of bringing up emotions.
Of course.
Yeah. That I'm
All
so
right,
relaxed.
so the real issue here is how to keep some sort of relationship with the client in the future when they might need it. And I'll go back to what I said, that if things do come up in the future, don't forget what Shen can do for you. And we don't need to necessarily go into a long series of 10 or whatever, but maybe 1 or 2 if it needs it at a certain time. Or you may just decide that you'll check in with me in 6 months or a year just to clean out the garbage without getting into any big bunch of details.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'm done with that issue if anybody else is. Okay. Well, Joanne, of course, has continuing problems with internet access, and so she's not here, and I guess she isn't going to make it. But I will read you what she said. For those who have had Shen and acknowledged and noticed its positive effects in what? Oh, wait a minute, that's yours. Sorry, wrong. I would like to ask about when best to use head flows. And then she says, I use it if I can feel blockage between my hands, but are there cases where that's a good idea? For example, perhaps where someone has been cut off from their body with a very blocked throat. Any examples from your experience or others would be great. It's a little, I was hoping to have her really describe that a little bit more because it's a little skimpy. But the thing that first crossed my mind was that it doesn't do very much good for someone who's been under a guillotine. And there's been a separation between the head and the body. That's sort of the end of it right there. But and I know that I was planning to say that I used to, without much effect, do flows from the back of the head right out through the forehead. But more often than not, I would be trying to work with not so much with the head itself, but with the appendages, like with the jaw and the muscles controlling the jaw and connected to the mouth and to the head, and so that I would try to do flows, little flows from like maybe here and things like that. But and to keep in mind that there is a whole tangle of muscles between the shoulder blades, between the shoulders and the skull on both sides. And then when you look at those things, and figure that anytime you could do a flow along a muscle, it's very likely to relax it. And I don't know anybody who doesn't have trouble with pains around their little pains or discomforts around their head and their neck and shoulders. I do all the time, even after I go to a chiropractor. By the time I'm down the street, I've had to turn my head a little bit too far or whatever it is. And so beyond that, I don't know that there's much that I could say. Does anybody else have something that they'd like to add? Because she'll get this, she'll get the recording.
I find the head flows remarkably relaxing for myself, so much so that I use them before I go to sleep on myself. And they help.
I'm sorry, take your hand away from your mouth.
Oh, sorry. I find the head flows really relaxing for myself. I always have whenever I've had Shen.
Yes.
And I use them for myself before I go to sleep at night. And I find that when I do that, I sleep a lot better.
Yeah, I've done that too. And especially at times when I was having weirdness going on around my head, it was like I would try to figure out ways to do flows across from my head to the shoulder. And you have to get your hands sorted out with cushions, so little pillows to hold them so they don't get all crossed up. But you're not going to harm anything by doing self-shen around your neck. No way. Rose, what'd you have there? Stuck your hand up.
Yeah, I do remind clients after a session to be conscious of holding on to the shoulders, because I do hold on to my shoulders. So I do say I've never known anyone to lose their shoulders by letting them go. Not being smart. Yeah. We do hold tension in our arms and shoulders. And jaw.
And back of neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly you would be doing, I would think that most of the flows would originate with your sending hand behind her neck.
Yeah. I do a lot of that because I've got a bad neck at the moment. So I do it with my hands behind and that.
So those head flows, is Joanne trying to ask about the head flows and the throat opening, using the head flows to sort of help the throat open? Or am I?
Say that again.
Is Joanne asking if the head flows are, if you use head flows, does it help open the throat?
Well, beyond what I've said, yeah, it would help. That would help open the throat.
Okay.
I think I took it as more of a wider session that she saw where there are little things, but was there anything of a larger nature having to do with the head?
Okay.
And she didn't say anything about the idea of a third eye initially, and way back at the beginning, when I was pretty wide open about this and how to work with it. I felt that it was reasonable to think that we might open the third eye, but the third eye is kind of a fictitious thing anyway, because don't I want to exactly say fictitious, but it's poorly understood.
Yeah.
But it is because where you have images are in your brain.
Richard, can I say something or share something with you guys, which is quite personal, regarding that third eye? I've had quite a lot of Shen, like everybody
All right.
here But about 2 or 3 years ago, I was at home one evening, and I had done some head flows. And I used one of these massage guns that you get nowadays. They're quite powerful. So I had used this massage gun, which must have released something. I don't know what it was, but it did. And suddenly I felt a flow of energy went through my crown. It was very strong. And it was wide open, which I've had before. I had a Shen session with Tony Bailey a number of years ago, and I had my crown open. But this particular evening, the crown was wide open, and for the next few hours, I was in quite a state, because what happened was the energy was coming through my head very strongly, and then it started moving down, and it moved down here, and it just blew open. And that's the only and I couldn't really move. I just lay in bed, and I was trying to do grounding, because I realized what had happened was that the opening of the crown sort of resulted in the opening of the third eye. And I'd always thought a third eye was over here for some reason. I also never believed that it really existed until I had that experience. And I can't say it was super pleasant, because it was that powerful. And I couldn't, it took hours and hours for me to ground myself to be able to just function properly again. And it sounds really weird, but I know what happened. And I'm very cautious now to make sure that if I'm doing any head flows, that I don't kickstart that again. And even if I do get a slight inkling that it's going to start, then I'll do a lot of grounding to stop it from happening again. But since that's happened, probably 3 or 4 times I've had it open again as widely. Yeah, it's very strange. And I don't quite know how to stop it anymore, apart from doing a lot of grounding. And I don't see why everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people actually strive for that. They look for ways to open that. I don't understand. I don't get why people would do that. But I wonder if any other of the Shen therapists have had this experience at all. I'm just a bit strange.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything they want to say about that?
Lauren, would you have done a root to crown?
Yes, yeah, to ground, yeah. It took, I lay on the bed with root to crown for probably around 2 hours. It was a long time. Yeah. And it wasn't frightening, because I realized what had happening. I've done a lot of energy work even before I started practicing Shen. So I understood what was happening, but it's not necessarily something I would want naturally. I mean, it's not something I really want. Yeah.
And the gun part, what were you working on with the gun massage gun?
Yeah, I was actually around my calf, around my tummy area. On a gentle, they're quite powerful, these guns that had like a ball at the end of it, so you can increase or decrease the speed. So it was on a low setting, and I was just working around my tummy area because I have fibroids. So I was just trying to relax my tummy area, and that's what. So I definitely would have released something there that just opened everything up quickly. Yeah.
All right. Anybody have anything they want to bring up before we close off here?
I have one question, please, Richard.
Okay.
I have a client. I've been advised that she's very large. And I have had tall clients before, and perhaps big clients, but it's a sensitive subject. And I was just wondering, I've got a large Shen cradle, but I'm quite nervous about how I'm going to get her on and off the cradle. One client I did have, I actually did it off the floor instead. I was just wondering if anyone has had any experience with this and what you've done to be able to assist the person onto the bed, because I'm not a big girl myself, so I'm not so strong, you know, and I'm also worried about the table.
Okay, can I comment?
Yeah, any help?
Okay, I had a client, a very big man who was a little bit unsteady on his feet. He was 22 stone, and I did check with Richard before, and he said it's okay, it's strong enough. Obviously, you need to make sure that your couch will also take that weight. And I got an extra step, like a step stool,
Right.
like a step, so that you've got, you know, if you've got a step stool in your kitchen or anything, then there's 1, 2, 3 steps, and then they can get on a bit easier. And once they're on, you know, he was a bit nervous because apparently he'd been somewhere and the bed had collapsed on him. But I saw him maybe 20 times, and it was absolutely fine.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so I think the most important thing is to, you know, to have more than one step for them to get up onto it.
So you mean maybe like 3 steps opposed to just a 1?
Yeah, or 2 at least.
2
Yeah.
probably would be enough.
Right. Okay. Okay. Okay.
And just
I think
with an unsteady client, I would remove the cradle and just use a very thin mattress and slide my hand in under
right.
centers.
So you mean like on a massage, or do you leave them on a massage bed with the mattress?
Yeah, that's what I've done. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, ladies. That's helpful.
Yeah, rather than have them step up on a step and then onto the cradle.
Okay.
Not easy for you to work to do Shen, but that's how we were taught Shen initially.
Yeah.
Okay.
There were no cradles at the beginning, many moons ago.
Okay.
We worked on the underpants. Yeah.
The only thing is,
yeah. Not comfortable for you, but at least you know the client is safe.
Okay. Thank you.
Don't be surprised if your arms and hands go numb with the weight of the body, and then you can't really feel much.
Right.
So be aware of that if they're really, really heavy. I used to get that when I was learning without the cradle.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thank you. It's a lot to think about.
Good luck. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think I'll pull the plug on this recording because I believe we're done. And let me just stop this.